The Raptors' losing streak is over as they take down the Milwaukee Bucks 117-111. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Paul Jones, Sherman Hamilton, and Eric Smith. Fellas, great win for the Raps on the road. Jonesy, I'll start with you. What do you think the keys were to the Raps pulling this one out?
Well, they made some threes tonight. I thought their defense was pretty good. Milwaukee really looks like a disjointed team right now. They made Lillard work. I looked down. He scored 36 points. He was 10 of 24, only 4 of 12 from three. I just thought they did a good job collectively. They were, and listen, you get some people back into the lineup and you have threats offensively. You have people that they have to guard. RJ, quickly. Olynyk's effectiveness goes up with those guys. I thought Abaji did a nice job defensively, just making Lillard work. So there are a bunch of things that they did that contributed toward the win. And I like the grittiness. I like the toughness. The fact that, they didn't give in. They didn't let the fact that they'd lost 15 in a row impact them by letting go of the rope at any point. They were down 10 early, and after that, they took the lead, and they basically held on to the rope the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm. Eric, what did you see?
I think what stood out more than anything, Randy, for me was, Jonesy hit on a bunch of points, but the rebounding. And I think that maybe speaks to the grittiness that Jonesy was referring to, the fact that this team did a solid job over the course of the game rebounding. And I know Matt and Alvin especially late in the ballgame, was talking about a couple of offensive rebounds that the Raptors gave up. And Alvin making the point, this is winning time. This is when you need to get those plays and make those plays. And no sooner right on the heels of those words that Al was speaking, what happened? Emmanuel quickly makes arguably the biggest rebound of the game off the Middleton miss that would have given Milwaukee the lead there late in the ballgame, and it essentially sealed the deal for the Raptors. So I thought that alone, the fact that in true crunch time they got the biggest play. When you look down at the end of the night, the Raptors ultimately did out rebound Milwaukee, and this is still a team that, as much as they got healthy, they're still playing undersized. I know Giannis wasn't in the lineup, but I think Milwaukee had more rebounding. They had more size. And the Raptors, with that grittiness that Jonesy speaks of, with that tenacity that they showed overall, found a way to do something that they haven't done a whole lot this year in terms of out-rebounding an opponent and making those key plays down the stretch.
Yeah, so Sherman, aside from not having Giannis, which is obviously a big deal for the Bucks, what was your assessment of how the Bucks played?
Oh, the Bucks, they're in a bad space right now. You can tell that it's the wrong time of the year to be in that bad space. And, when you look at the two losses they had previous to the Raptors, they gave up 70 points in the paint to the Wizards and then 76 points in the paint to the Memphis Grizzlies the next night. So we know they've struggled in terms of the defensive end, but that's glaring when you're giving up that many points in your paint for a team that has one of the best shot blockers in the league. And then you think about the fact that you're getting your scoring from your two main guys, but defensively, as we saw tonight with Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, I think they combined for 26 free throw attempts between just the two of them. You're not stopping people anymore. And this is where I feel like you can't state it enough how good Drew Holiday was at the point of attack for that Milwaukee team. They just don't have defense now. They exchange defense for offense. They wanted Dame Lillard. He's scoring, but you got to stop people. And Milwaukee's struggling to stop people. And that puts more undue pressure on guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo to do more defensively. And this is another example of, it's not who you play sometimes, it's when you play them. And the Raptors played against the Milwaukee Bucks team that's struggling to finish its regular season. Timing couldn't be better, and the Raptors capitalized on it by playing a more forceful brand of basketball.
Hey, Randy, can I jump in there for 1 second? Just quickly,
for sure.
Just to emphasize Sherm's point. I don't know if anybody else was. I was a little bit surprised to see Milwaukee going away from Brook Lopez. I know he's not exactly the most fleet of foot. Maybe we could argue it wasn't the greatest matchup with the athleticism of, and that might even be funny to say, the athleticism of a Kelly Olynyk. He's not exactly the quickest guy either, but he's a little shiftier. He's a different player than Lopez. But during this 15-game losing streak, whether it be an athletic big or a slower plotting big, have the Raptors not struggled against almost every single big man that they faced during this streak, arguably even over major chunks of this season? So to look down and see Lopez only playing 20 minutes tonight and checking in even late in the ball game in a tight game where you need maybe some of that defense, some of that shot blocking presence, some of that rebounding down low, I was surprised that Doc Rivers didn't play him more than he did tonight.
Mm-hmm. Jonesy, I'm just loving the way RJ Barrett's playing. He's really not taking any plays off. He seems to be just loving the fact that he's back playing basketball.
Well, he's playing he was really aggressive offensively, to the point tonight where I thought he was almost too thirsty. But hey, it's always easier to rein it in or pull it back as opposed to prodding to try to get more. He's been out of the lineup. You're sitting there on the bench. You can see what your team needs, and a lot of that grittiness, that effort, RJ supplied that this evening. He did a good job driving the ball. Sherm remarked about the free throws between he and Quickly, and I just think it was one of those situations for the Raptors tonight where, RJ was a guy that led the charge and said, you know what? The will is going to be greater than the skill tonight. We're going to grind this. We're going to work hard, and it may not always be pretty. You might not always like the decisions, but we're going to keep coming at you. And I thought, listen, he played to his strength tonight, getting downhill, getting to his left hand. And you could see the result of that by him getting to the free throw line. And make no mistake, there was some rust out there. There were some shots that were missed that would normally go down had he been in peak condition and more finely tuned. But give the kid credit. He was back in the lineup and working hard tonight.
Mm-hmm. And Sherm, going to Gary Trent Jr., I mean, feeling it again tonight, it's got to be, a little bit better, a little bit easier for him to play with some guys that can get him the ball in some better spots, and he took advantage tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the lineup tonight. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. had guys beside him who were going to attract attention. And because of that element, he was able to get free and do some of the things that we know he can do. But I liked his energy as well. I thought he came into this game, he played with that pep in his step. He was aggressive offensively, defensively, he was active, he's barking at the crowd. All of that stuff to me is vintage Gary Trent Jr. And the fact that his shots were coming in more normal places that he's used to based on the people on the floor. So the balance was restored to a certain extent, and that allows him to get back to playing to the way that he likes to play. And it's not just the fact that those guys were getting it going, but when you had all three of them going, Milwaukee didn't know what to do with that. And they're already at a deficit on the perimeter with Damian Lillard having to defend one of those guys. So I just think that it was good to see the three of them get going like that and have that kind of synergy. But it's a testament to Darko's ability to continue to coach these guys and continue to hold them accountable. And they're responding. And, we talk about learning and growing in a losing situation. It's good to get those W's sometimes and just kind of reinforce it in a positive way that what you're doing is working at times.
Yeah. Eric, the reins have been handed to Scotty, but he's been injured. And since he's been out, it really feels like Quickly and Barrett as well becoming leaders of this team. And Quickly, he was just awesome tonight.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, doing so many different things for the team. I already talked about the rebounding and the one big rebound especially, but, coming that close to yet another triple-double in his young career. And I think, I believe we all would agree that this trade that was made as much for RJ Barrett as it was Emmanuel Quickly. The anticipation of the contract extension in the offseason and the fact that whether it's handing the reins to him or just welcoming him into the inner sanctum as part of this core going forward alongside Scotty Barnes. So with him missing the games that he did, I think that has been a huge loss for him in terms of his growth with this team, let alone for this team overall and their growth with him. To get him back here for the last handful of games of the season, to have him down the stretch drive, win or lose, just to get that familiarity and that chemistry going, I think it's huge. And he's starting to show more and more, not just in tonight's game, but in the course of his time in Toronto, that he can be more than just this. You want to label him as a slasher? Well, he can score. You want to label him as a shooter? Well, he can also get to the hoop. He can distribute. He can play some defense. I think that needs to improve a little bit more. He can rebound. There's a lot of tools in his bag right now, and I think he's only going to get better as the maturity comes, but also as the responsibility on this team raises for him to a level that he wouldn't have had or at least didn't have in New York.
Randy, just to tag that, what Eric said, you have two guys now in Barrett and Quickly that are emerging as leaders. You put Scotty back in the fold next year. Now you got three guys that aren't afraid, or three guys that have that ability to make plays at important times or have been in close games and understand. And if they can mesh that together, I mean, you look at tonight's lineup, think about adding Scotty and Jakob Pertl back in, and who knows what else you do in the offseason. And like there were some other guys that were still out tonight. It's not a team that's supposed to lose 15 in a row. They're beat up. They were injured. They had circumstances. But I think you got to measure tonight of what it's like when they have people healthy and they're willing to grind and play hard.
Mm-hmm. Sure, we touched on Milwaukee a little bit, but do you make anything of the fact that the Bucks are now 15-16 since Rivers took over as head coach?
Well, I think it matters. I don't think you don't look at that and ask why. Why is this team not better than they're supposed to be? And then I think ultimately you got to look at every function of this team, the coaching, the players, the system, all of that stuff. Now, you could argue without a training camp, without having that time to really establish things, it's difficult to really get a good judgment of the team. But expectations are what they are for this team. And the fact is they're supposed to be battling for the Eastern Conference and heading for a championship. So if we just look at them from that perspective and from that lens, we've got to ask what's happening here. And I think even though it looks on paper like they're better defensively, I don't think they are better defensively. And offensively, yeah, they got a potent scorer in this league, a proven scorer in Damian Lillard, but they've got to answer some calls. And to me, the real thing about this team coming together in the postseason is Chris Middleton. If he's healthy, if he's on the floor, if he's playing consistently, I think he's going to be the difference maker for this team.
All right, guys, great stuff. Going to stop it there. Next game for the Raptors, Sunday versus the Washington Wizards. Tip-off goes at 6 p.m. Eastern. After the game, come on by Real Sports. Be a part of the show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.